What's up, homies? Today on Speed Theory Performance, we're going to be covering the full install of a black market parts port injection kit with all the fueling upgrades. I needed some more fuel to keep up with my boost requirements, as per my tune. Here's a quick overview of the kit. It comes with the rail, 750cc injectors, as you can see here, as a rail to low side fuel line, has extended studs to maintain a stock look. I'm upgrading to a dual 450 wall-rolled pumps, and it's going to be running a bucketless system, where I can go fully E85. It comes with the socks and all the hardware necessary. Next is the upgraded fuel line. It's about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch diameter, which is a major upgrade to the fuel supply. The system uses a Hobbs switch to activate the secondary pump at the determined PSI required. And finally, you got the injector power harness. Alright, let's get to this install. Here we are at the intake side of the engine bay. I'm not going to go too much into detail here on the actual removal of what is removed, more so what you'll need to remove to start the install of this kit. At the end of the video, there will be a quick overview on the whiteboard of what are the key factors to consider when needing to do this upgrade, the prerequisites to add more fuel to your setup. Alright, be sure to check that out. You'll need to remove your charge pipe, throttle body, unclip all wiring harnesses attached to the fuel rail area, which includes the oil pressure sensor, both your O2s, make sure they're labeled so you don't mix and match them up, the connection on the top of the manifold, the brake booster, and anything else in the way of the working area. Alright, once all those are unclipped and the fasteners holding the manifold are removed and the junction box is detached, remove the manifold. Alright, this is what we're going to be working with for the install. Alright, here's a quick comparison of the stock studs to the new ones that are included in the kit. First step is to remove them and clean the mating surface. Use the torque set on the studs. If they become stripped or hard to remove, use 2 nuts to help remove the studs. Exercise extreme caution here and not to strip these studs coming out of the block. You can see there's a decent amount of residue from the old gaskets, so let's get that all cleaned up. And here's how I did it. Alright, so I use a microfiber, a scratch pad, and brake clean. Okay, now that the intake mating surface is prepped, you can install the new studs. There is a torque spec with these studs, but it's so small that I just ended up using this ratchet with an extension here as the torque bar. I tightened down the studs until the ratchet stopped and there was some resistance on the ratchet to where it would actually bounce back, and that seemed to be the perfect torque, as you can see here. Alright, now we're ready to prep the rail for install and button up the intake side and reinstall our throttle body, charge pipe, and manifold. I did clean and degrease my manifold, and I removed all of those gaskets. Alright, okay, I did a quick measurement to get an idea of how much the spacer will push everything out. It's about 0.8 of an inch or 22 millimeters at the thickest part here. Okay, this is optional, but I added a little bit of silicone to the gasket housing area to help create an airtight seal. This is a good idea in my opinion because of the high boosts and higher pressures. It really helps keep things sealed up and airtight. Alright, as you can see, I mocked the rail to the low pressure side line and the injector power harness. I oriented the injectors to where I think they're going to have enough clearance. I started from the left side and zip tied along the way the harness and let the tail and the connector to hang free. Alright, as you can see here. Alright, here's how I checked the initial clearance required. Once I thought it was good enough, I test fitted the rail onto the block. I placed the microfiber on the low pressure side where the fuel line connects. I also tested the rail to low side line placement, as you can see here. Alright, this is where it's going to go. That's the orientation. Looks good. Once I was happy with the fitment, I used a quick fuel line disconnect tool and detached the stock fuel line. I hooked up the rail line to the upgraded fuel line, as you can see here. Okay, at this time I have both the fuel line and the hop switch connection routed through the stock fuel line location. There's a little bracket and the fuel line is capped and both the connections hanging underneath the car. At this time everything at the intake is pretty much complete. I reinstalled the manifold at this point and began to tighten down the studs. It is important here to slowly and periodically tighten down the nuts and studs, and I'm going to show you why in the next frame here. Alright, I started from the inside, working my way out, back to the inside, all the way into the middle. Here's illustrated why you want to walk down the nut before you torque down the manifold. It is possible to get the 15 foot-pounds prior to the manifold truly being flushed to the mating surfaces, so walk the nuts down until you can be sure that it's fully seated and torqued to spec. Alright, once that is complete, we'll move to the back of the car. Here we're at the fuel pump cover. Go ahead and remove the 4 10mm bolts. Prior to removing any connectors, we're going to want to mark the location of our hop switch connection areas with everything assembled in the final positions. Okay, I'm not going to bore you here. Remove all the connections and loosen up the lock nut that's holding the fuel pump into place. At this point the pump is ready to come out. Lift the top hat and pull the pump assembly. There's a few connections that will need to be disconnected before the pump can be removed fully, as illustrated here. There's one on top of the pump and one underneath the hi-hat. Go ahead and remove those and let them sit in the tank. Okay, now we'll be able to disassemble the stock pump and take what we need to transfer to the new system. Alright, first I removed the hi-hat, then using a punch I made an indentation at the predetermined spots to make drilling for the new hop switch connection easier. The float assembly and wiring also has to be removed as well. That's all that we're going to need from the stock fuel assembly. Alright, this simply presses against the pump housing and lifts right out of place. Okay, here you can see the new location and the mounting hardware. Just screw them into place. Alright, next to secure the hi-hat to the new bracket, I drilled a couple holes in each post and fed a cotter pin through. This keeps the hi-hat assembly to move freely, but keeps the bracket and the hat as one unit. This really is going to help inside the tank. Alright, next drill the hop switch connection areas on the hi-hat. Then you're going to connect the float to the bracket. Alrighty. Then next you're going to attach the secondary pump to the hi-hat. You're going to take the hoop connection, place a bolt through. You're going to tighten down the bolt and then feed that through the hi-hat and secure it with the other nut. There you go. Alright, lastly you need to route and attach the float connector to the power supply on the hi-hat. Press it into place. Alright, to help with the reinstall, go ahead and mark the negative side of the secondary pump connector with black or brown. This will help to make sure you don't install the connectors in reverse polarity. Alright, there you go. Check all the connections. Alright, now we're ready to do the reinstall of the pump. Now we're going to head back into the back of the car. Last thing before it goes in is to make sure that both the stocks are installed and fully seated. Use the alignment tabs on the stocks to help with this. Alright, reconnect the pump feed line and pull the other connection out of the tank. Feed the new pump down into the tank and ensure that neither the fuel filters come off or loosen or fall into the tank in any way. Install the hi-hat connector. Alright, there's an alignment dowel on the tank. Make sure that it aligns. Okay, before you can snap the top connector back in, go ahead and loosely tighten up this lock ring. Add the connector. Alright, these are our two studs that we're going to use to connect the hop switch connector. I removed the back seat completely to help feed the wire into the trunk. This gave me the most access to the trunk and the best route to the battery. Alright, here we are at the driver's side portion of the fuel tank. You can see where I fed the fuel line into the car from underneath. Alright, it's fed through and the slack is dangling for now. The connectors that held the stock fuel line in, I used for the hop switch wiring from the charge pipe to the trunk area, as you can see illustrated here, and it's just routed up into the same area as the fuel line for now. Okay, here's the hop switch, here's the fuel line. Remove that plug and go ahead and snap it into place. Reconnect the electrical connector. I cut out the area that I wanted for the hop switch area to make it flush. Alright, then re-tighten those nuts. Okay, so this is my wiring job. This is a secondary switch. It's secured and cut through the top hat here. I taped the cut portion to alleviate any friction on the wire. I have the hop switch that is running from the regular side up through the fuel sender area, back directly into the battery. It snaps right into place. Attach the positive wire to the positive side of the battery and the negative side to the negative side of the battery. This is what the wiring looks like all completed. This is just an example of the way I wired it all up. Here it is all buttoned up underneath. I got the fuel line zip tied to those stock connectors. I have them cross zip tied and zip tied to multiple anchor points. This is just temporary for now. Alright, here's the battery tray. There you go. It's completely hooked up and looks stock. There's the fuse, there's the hop switch connector, there's the relay. Alright, everything's buttoned up. This is kind of what it looks like. Replace the tray. And there you go. Black market parts port injection kit installed. Alright guys, that's it for part 1 of this video. Be sure to check out Speed Theory Performance and check out our video selection. If you like the videos, give them a like. Drop a comment in the comment section below. If you liked this video and found it helpful, consider subscribing. Alright guys, that's it.
Performance today, we're going to be going over our N54 fueling upgrade. We just kind of go over some things to consider, some system upgrades that is available. Consider when upgrading your fueling system. So basically, are your intake valves clean? Walnut blast may not come in full in the video. It's just kind of an overview. That's okay. How healthy is your high pressure fuel pump? If it's never been changed, you might want to consider getting a new one at this point. Air requirements from force induction. So what that means is having a tune without knowing the parameters of the tune, like the mapping, the fuel requirements, the timing, all of those things can affect your air requirement. Out of balance system, meaning your turbo is too big or too small, or it's creating basically too much air and not enough fuel, so you're going to have a bad combustion. Not adjusting fuel delivery when upgrading your turbo system. So that's kind of where we're at today. We're going to be addressing number 3 here. Are you having random misfires? So as your things to consider, if you're having random misfires, it could be possibly the cause is stock. You have a stock fuel delivery system. Update it, or healthy injectors, meaning are you on index 9 injectors? Is your flow, the seals, again, correct index? Is the voltage getting to all the injectors? Is there any kinks in the system? Do you have the dirty valves again? Your crankshaft and camshaft position sensors, are they replaced? Are they properly talking to one another? Are they muddled, etc.? Ignition coils that are capable or over capable, basically, of handling the electrical load. Spark plugs gap correctly or incorrectly. They're using the wrong type of spark plug. Timing is too advanced to retard it. And that's going to go in again with kind of knowing your tune and actually knowing the parameters of the tune, instead of just flashing your car and all of a sudden it's asking for this amount of fuel, but you can't produce it, either the volume or the need. solid electrical connections across the board. So is all of these systems electrical connections grounded and applying or receiving electrical connection or voltage. All right, system upgrades for the fuel. So you have fuel pumps, you have the Walbro 450s, which is very possibly popular. You're gonna do single or doubles. You could do 525 Walbros, you could do bucketless, or they have upgraded buckets or buckets with one on the side. Whatever you're gonna choose. Today we're gonna go with the bucketless system, dual 450s, upgraded fuel lines. So how much volume of fuel from the low side going into the high pressure fuel pump that's actually getting into the engine. So if you have the restriction one, the one on the stock is about 1/4 of an inch or so. The one we're going to be upgrading to is about 1/2 of an inch in diameter. So already you're going to be increasing the flow. Additional injectors being port injection, meaning beforing the intake. That's how it's mixing in. So your high pressure fuel pump overdrive, you have the spool kit, which is roughly $1,000. The VTO double shotgun kit, boom, it's belt driven. It's just increasing the pressure. It's not really adding more fuel per se, only in the fact that it's requiring more fuel because it's kind of an overdrive. So it's just pulling more fuel, but you're still using the same pressure. So the port injection delivery, you have rails system by Fuel black market parts, buy some cheap eBay parts. You have intake manifold. The Chinese versions, i.e. the Phoenix Race, which is basically the metal one that has ports on each intake chamber. So 6 intake chambers, and then you can just dump the fuel in there with an additional fuel rail. So it's also going to have more fuel as well. The Dock Race one, etc. eBay ones, Chinese ones, whatever. So then you're going to need additional fuel monitoring systems. gaskets, install the rail, and check equipment and gaps, as I was, checking if there's any warpage of the rail to the actual cylinder head. Add the fuel line, rail attached to the low side. So basically, from your fuel rail, attaching that additional fuel line that's going to allow the fuel from the low side go into the additional injectors and being powered by the high pressure coolant as well. Okay, so install intake manifold, reattach everything up to the charge pipe. Install the charge pipe, install the top pressure sensor, and reinstall the intake side complete. Okay, so I'm starting at the intake. After that, we're going to remove rear